Alan, if we could get a quick run through in terms of team news ahead of kick-off over at Dumbarton. What's the latest with Dominique Malonga?
Dominique's due back later on today, so he should arrive back in the UK later on today, and back in tomorrow morning. We'll assess him in the morning, make sure everything's okay, and if that's all well and good, then he'll train tomorrow morning.
He represented Congo, didn't he, against Sudan, I believe it was, in the African Cup of Nations qualifiers, and they've now qualified. How proud are you of the fact that one of your players is competing at that level? Well,
first and foremost, it's fantastic for Dominique, and the club that we've got, a representation at the African Cup of Nations. I don't think anyone would have envisaged Dominique being called up first and foremost, and then he's come here. He was always chasing his tail a little bit because of fitness and playing catch up, and he's done that, and he's as well as doing that, he's managed to score goals as well, and he's really had an impact on the team, and I think as a reflection of that is the reason why he's been called up to the Congo national team.
Have you been in regular dialogue with Dominique since he's been over in Africa, and what's his fitness levels like? You mentioned to the written press earlier on today that he carried a knock, which is why he didn't feature against Nigeria.
Yeah, he had a slight knock in the first game, and I think when people seen that he wasn't involved, it may have thought that he just wasn't picked, but he picked up a slight knock, which was nothing untoward. And it settled down, and he trained Monday, Tuesday, and then obviously was involved in the game yesterday. So from that point of view, I don't see any problems with him coming back, and no reason why he can't be involved on Saturday.
What's the update then with Mark Oxley and Scott Robertson?
Yeah, Mark's coming along well. It's probably a little bit. Well, it probably is around about what we thought. We were always hoping for him to maybe come back a little bit quicker, but the fact that he had a small crack in his back, we have to be careful and respectful that if we do bring him back too quick, it could mean he'll be out for longer. So he's obviously a major doubt for Saturday. Robbo's, he's seen a specialist, and the specialist is, he's still cautious about his hand. He's got a soft cast on it at this moment in time, and he's done a little bit of physical exercise today, and we'll see how that is tomorrow, and make sure there's no reaction to it. And I would say he's still a doubt for the weekend, but that will be one that will make a decision closer to the game.
So there's a chance he could play, but he can't be obviously taking any throw-ins.
He won't be taking any throw-ins, I can guarantee that. He won't be doing anything like that. But apart from that, if he's playing, then he's fit. That's the thing. He's got to be. I think when sometimes you have a cast on, you're still very conscious of it, and it can stop you from, when you're going for jumps, leading with that arm, and you can be a little bit protective of us. We need to make sure that he is 100%, clear and confident that that's not going to affect his performance.
You were at the game. We obviously spoke at Ainsley Park earlier on this week for the under-20s and their magnificent 7-0 win against Dundee. What did you take from that, and how many players from that team do you feel are now knocking on the first team door?
Well, first and foremost, I would say that it's a big jump from 20s to first team football, but on the other hand, there is one or two of the young ones that are doing themselves a world of good at this moment in time. They're moving in the right direction. Joe's done great with them since he's come in. As a result of that, one or two have already been training with the group, and it's important that we ease them into that type of environment rather than just throw them in at the deep end and we startle them too much. So that they are making progression. which is vital that they do that. They're doing the right things. You know, Jake, Sam, Boozy, you know, they all at that level are doing what we expect them to do. You know, and they are, you know, they've scored goals, which is great to see. But I think the most important thing is, from what I take out of it, is that I don't look at the scoreline, you know, because that is not the most important thing in the under-20s. It's about the development, you know, and getting them players through to the first team. The most pleasing manner for me was the manner in which they scored some of the goals, you know, because there was at least 2 or 3 which were excellent and well-made goals, and that was the most pleasing thing for me, is that they showed a real intelligence to play 1-2s, little clever balls around the corner, in the right place at the right time, the way to pass, and that was the best thing about it. Yeah, obviously a goal's a goal, but you know, there's a way of doing it and all at this moment in time, and I've got to say that the young lads have done very well recently, and the results reflect that.
As a manager, Alan, what do you invest more into? Is if a player's got 100 games under their belt, do you invest in experience, or do you invest in an untried young player that's on form? It's a difficult balancing act, isn't it?
It is. I don't think necessarily sometimes think there's a right and a wrong. You know, it all comes down to sometimes what your gut feeling is. You know, I think there's a time and a place where you, or a team that you're playing against, where you maybe need that bit more of experience. And there's other times where you feel as if it's the right opportunity to throw one of the younger ones in and let them experience it. Ideally, we'd like to, I think, bring a few of them off the bench. When you're winning 2 and 3-0 up, and it gives you an opportunity to come on and experience it and sample that when there's not really a lot of pressure on them. I think it's a lot more daunting and intimidating when you're starting from the first whistle, because there's a lot more responsibility on you to do the right things from the very beginning, rather than maybe for a short period of time.
The average age of the starting lineup that faced Queen of the South was just over 22 and a half. That's probably one of the youngest teams we've fielded for many a year. Do you feel that when you're fielding inexperienced players, that sometimes there can be an element of panic when things perhaps aren't going right? Yeah,
I think, you know, when you are into the realms of such a young team, unfortunately, they don't necessarily make the right decisions more often than not. So the element of risk becomes far greater. Whereas when you've got that little bit of experience, they know and have been in them situations before. So rather than panic and look to move the ball on quickly, that little bit of calmness gives them that sometimes that extra 1 or 2 seconds to make the right decision. And listen, we've all been in them situations. It's when you do get an opportunity, and if you are a young one, it's how you learn from your mistakes. And the ones who do well and kick on to the next level are the ones who learn from mistakes very quickly. The ones who don't tend to take a lot more time and sometimes, you know, don't really kick on to that next level because they don't work it out quick enough and they keep making the mistakes time in and time out.
Dumbarton, they're a tough nut to crack. We've already seen that on 2 occasions this season. They were obviously almost knocked us out of the League Cup, and then they obviously recorded a goalless draw at Easter Road. Do you feel that if we can get a result here, it will once again prove to all and sundry that we are genuine competitors in this league?
Well, even though the points tally does not necessarily reflect that, I really do believe that we're genuine contenders. You know, but we need to start, you know, winning these games that we're drawing. You know, that's we're not going to hide behind the fact. You know, we know it's there, it's black and white in front of us. You know, we are the better team, but we're not necessarily getting the result that reflects. And we need, and that sometimes can be as a result of a bit of naivety, a bit of youthfulness. Maybe I did say, and I've said it before, you know, we did look a bit young last week. And that's not shouldn't be a criticism of the team. It's just because, you know, we've had a few injuries at this moment in time which have affected us. You know, any team in this league, and I mean any team, would miss Dylan. You know, any team, I feel, would miss Dominique. You know, you could say the same thing about Robbo, you know, and Mark. So there's 4 very influential players for us that we never had last week for one reason or another. You know, and that is, I'm afraid, going to affect. Well, it affected us, but it would affect any team.
So obviously back-to-back away trips against probably 2 of the stickiest teams in the Championship. Obviously Dumbarton in the league, then Alloa in the Cup. It's a massive fortnight, isn't it, really, in terms of us to try and build some momentum? To
be honest, Andrew, I think every week's a massive week. I really do, because that's what football is all about. You know, you don't look too far ahead, and you don't concentrate on what's happened in the past. You know, you live for the day, you live for the moment. You know, and we work day to day, week to week. You know, so all our focus this week has been on Dumbarton. Then once we finish Dumbarton, it'll move on to Alloa. I'm right in saying, yeah. And I think from the answers there that you can see that I don't necessarily worry about what's coming in 2 weeks' time. You know, because there's no point, because if I'm doing that, then I'm not giving me 100% attention to Saturday. So, you know, we know it's going to be difficult. You know, we know we're going to be in for a difficult game. You know, whenever we've played them, they've got everybody behind the ball and made it difficult for us. So, you know, we don't expect it to be any different. I just think when we're on top, we just need to sometimes score that early goal, settle us down, which gives us a platform to move on. But what I will say is that when we haven't scored, we've looked like we're still in control of games, but we just need to have that killer instinct, and when we get opportunities, we need to take them more often than not.